Hello everyone! Today we have a non-competitive deck. I'm excited by a new legend. I want to play a non-competitive deck, brew one with them. So let's see who it is. Today's new spoiled commander is Odric Bloodcursed, Bloodric, 3 mana, Boros. Vampire Soldier Legend. When Odric ETBs, you create X blood tokens, where X is the number of abilities from among flying, blah 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 blah, among creatures you control. 3/3. So he makes a bunch of blood tokens. And let's see what a blood token is. If you don't remember, you don't know yet. A blood token is this. Blood token, you pay 1, you tap it, discard a card, sack this artifact, draw a card. So it's like a rummage on a token that you pay mana for. Kind of like the other Odrics, this one cares about keywords, but unlike the older Odrics, Bloodric doesn't buff your board. He just gives you artifacts to rummage, and let's see what kind of deck we can build with Bloodric. So let's go look. Here's the deck. Today's deck list is on Moxfield as usual. If you somehow aren't on Moxfield, get on it. You can already start adding some of the spoiler cards as they come out. Yep, as the cards are spoiled, you can directly add them to your decks and start building. So I have Bloodric here. There's no picture for some reason, but other cards from Crimson Vow are already in this list. So do that. Now let's get into the deck. Today's deck for Bloodric, I wanted to make it mostly a vampires deck, vampire tribal, and then find ways or themes to support the vampire tribe. So I'm gonna go through most of these vampires and talk about why I want to play them, and then start talking about other things we can do with it. It's what this list won't have is interaction, haha, like everyone else. No, the point is really just to find all the things that we could do with Bloodric that makes an interesting deck. So if you take this and want to build your own, you probably want to cut some of the vampires, cut some of the other things, and put in like a Soul Ring or Mana Crypt. I don't play any of that in this list. This is purely just for cards that have good synergy. So yeah, let's look. So this is very exciting to have a Boros vampire deck. Very cool. I didn't think we could have one before Crimson Vow. So let's look at some vampires. We have Anya's Ravager. This is pretty good as Madness. Obviously you can pay off with the blood tokens, right? You make a blood token, crack the blood token, Madness discard in, draw a card. So we are offsetting the discard with the Madness ability, and there's going to be other payoffs like that, but that's why we want cards like Anya's Ravager, 3 mana, 3/3, attack, discard your hand, draw 3. It's pretty good. Bishop of Binding over here exiles a creature until Bishop leaves, so it's a nice way to just get rid of something, but when you attack you get to buff a vampire, where power X is the power of the exiled card. So it's another cool white vampire from Ixalan. That's what's exciting too, you get to play the white vampires from Ixalan, very exciting. So then there's Bishop of Rebirth, another bishop. This one returns a creature of CMC 3 or less, so kind of valuable. Sometimes we'll discard a vampire that's a low CMC, and then you bring it back with bishop, so pretty cool. Blade of the Blood Chief, super good vampire payoff or vampire tribal card. When you equip it onto a vampire, and whenever a creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on equipped creature, and if the equipped creature is a vampire, you get 2 +1/+1 counters. So +1/+1 counters is something that I really focused on in this deck as well, because as we'll see, a lot of vampires get stronger as they deal damage to the opponent, kind of like, I guess it's like you're draining their blood, so they get +1/+1 counters. So that's another theme we're going to be looking at today. The next card is Blood Hypnotist, a new vampire from Crimson Vow, 3 mana, 3/3 can't block, so stats are okay. But what's important is whenever you sacrifice 1 more blood tokens, target creature can't block this turn, and you can only activate it once, or this triggers only once. Why is this important? Because as we just said, vampires get stronger when they connect, so this is a way for you to consistently or make it harder for your opponents to block your vampires, which will let them grow. So very valuable ability. It's a nice way to play with the blood tokens, so I like that synergy. We have Blood Crazed Neonate, just a good 2 mana, 2/1, just grows bigger, vampire. Blood Mad Vampire, 3 mana, 4/1, same thing as Neonate, so it grows bigger when it deals damage, but with Madness. So we can also pay off with the rummage or discard abilities. Then we have Bloodthirsty Adversary, 2 mana, 2/2. Gets bigger as you pay 3 mana to get more +1/+1 counters. You can also exile instant or sorcery, mana value 3 or less, and copy them. for each thingy, each time you pay the 3 mana. So right now this deck doesn't have that many instants. There are quite a few, so that would be useful, but really it's here just to be like a big vampire when you grow it with haste. So you'll see that haste is here, and remember, Bloodric cares about keywords, so we also want our vampires to have keywords so that when Bloodric ETBs, you get more of those tokens, those sweet Blood Vials. Yes. Falconwrath Exterminator, 2 mana, 1/1. When it connects, +1/+1 counter on it, vampire ability. Then what's really great about him is you pay 3 mana, he deals damage to target creature equals number +1/+1 counters on Falconwrath Exterminator. 3 mana's actually not that expensive, I think. So once you get this guy really big, you can really control the board. So I like that. Falconwrath Gorger. Each vampire you own that isn't on the battlefield has madness equal to his mana cost. That's just good. That's good, right? We have this guy out. Every time we crack a blood token, break one of those vials, play one of your vampires that doesn't have madness, now they do, so good synergy there. Falconwrath Marauders, 5 mana, 2/2 flying haste, and then when it connects, 2+1/+1 counters. Not the best creature out there, but I think pretty good. 5 mana, he can become like a 4/4 the first turn he comes in if you connect with flying haste, and also again keywords. We want those keywords, so more vials. Falconwrath Pit Fighter, 2 mana, discard a card, sack a vampire, draw 2 cards. Only activate when opponent lost life this turn. Just a way to draw cards, a way to sacrifice some of your vampires and discard cards. So for 1 mana, 2/1, not the worst thing we can have. I like it. Forerunner of the Legion, when it ETBs, you find a vampire and put it on top of your deck. Then when another vampire ETBs under your control, target creature gets +1/+1. So you can do some pretty cool things. You can grow your creature for that turn and get a pretty big swing. Fury Blade Vampire, 2 mana, 1/2 trample. At the beginning of your combat, you can discard a card, so another way to synergize with the madness abilities. And then Fury Blade gets +3/+0 until end of turn. So again, I think when you compare with like classic, I don't know, commander creatures that everyone plays, like, I don't know, Crater Hoof, or like, I don't know, there's like a 5 mana guy that like attacks, you can pick ability, like compared to other kind of staples, these vampires may not look as strong, but I think the synergy and growing this board and being able to play with the tribal synergy would be pretty cool, so that's why I play these things. Then we have Haven Ghoul Vampire, 4 mana, when it connects, it grows. Whenever another creature dies, it also grows, so that's pretty good, You know, in a multiplayer game, one creature might die, and this vampire just gets bigger. Heirs of Stromkirk, I really like this card from original, well, this is from Avacyn Restored, I think. 4 mana, 2/2 with Intimidate, and then it grows, so it can get pretty big pretty quickly, I guess, if there's no red creatures to block it, or artifact creatures, yeah. Incorrigible Use, Haste, 5 mana, but mana is 3, so that's what we're going for here. 4/3 creature. Just another vampire. Insatiable Gorgers, another madness vampire, 5/3, and has to attack. Legion's Landing, this is pretty cool. You make a white vampire token with lifelink, so that there's a keyword, And also, when you attack with 3 or more, you get to transform it, and the land makes vampires, I believe. Markov Blade Master, 3 mana, double strike 1/1 when it connects, +1/+1 counter, kind of like everything else. So you can see how many +1/+1 counter effects we have in this deck and why we want to play to the +1/+1 counter abilities. Markov Waltzer, 4 mana flying haste, so double keywords on 1 creature. And then at the beginning of combat, up to 2 creatures you control get +1/+0, so it's pretty cool. Martyr of Dusk, 2 mana, when it dies, you make a 1/1 vampire token, so with lifelink, so pretty cool. Maverick Fine, definitely want to play this card whenever one or more non-token vampires you control attack, make a 1/1 white vampire with lifelink, so very easily triggered with all this stuff. Rakish Air, whenever a vampire you control deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So huge, because a lot of these vampires already have that ability by themselves, so you have Rakish Air and like Falconwrath Marauder. Falconwrath is adding +3/+3 each combat now, so pretty great. Even better with Markov Blade Master. Markov Blade Master gets +4/+4 each turn, because each strike will trigger Rakish Air, so Rakish Air is very good. Ravenous Bloodseeker, discard a card, he gets bigger, but really he's here for the discard ability at any time with our madness cards. Stenzia Masquerade, this one's really big as well. So this one is a 3-mana enchantment. Attacking creatures, you have first strike, and then afterwards, whenever a vampire you control deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on it, so just like Rakish Air, with a madness of 3. This is literally everything we want. This gives our creatures a keyword, it buffs our vampires, and it also has madness. This is like everything this deck wants to do, so definitely want to play this. Stromkirk Occultist, another madness vampire of trample for some reason. 3 mana, 3/2, when it deals damage to a player or combat damage. Exile top card of your library until end of turn, you may play that card. So just good value, you can madness it, and you get the Blood Vial off the trample. Unholy Officiant, 1 mana, Vigilance, 1/2, 5 mana, put a +1/+1 counter. So some of you might think this is not that great because you're paying 5 mana to grow it, but honestly, I kind of like it. 1 mana, you get the Vigilance keyword there, and also when you're playing a kind of slower game and you have mana just to sink into something, like, it's not that bad, just keep growing this guy. Vampiric Fury, 2 mana instant, vampires you control get +2/+0 and gain first strike until end of turn. This could be pretty massive because that means if someone attacks into you and you have a couple vampires open, you can give them all first strike, +2/+0, have a really good block there, or you attack with everything. They like chump block or block with enough, toughness to prevent the damage or whatever, and you surprise them with this one, and all your vampires now kill all their creatures and stay alive. So I think Vampiric Fury is pretty good. Then lastly, we have Voldaren Ambusher. He looks like a Blood Elf. 3 mana, when he ETBs, if an opponent lost life, it deals X damage up to 1 target creature or planeswalker or X number of vampires you control. So pretty cool, you have an ETB there just to like shoot down a creature if someone took damage. And yeah, so let's talk about ETBs for a second, because Bloodric, if you remember, when he ETBs, he gives you those Blood Vials, right? So ETBs is definitely something we want to play towards. This means we play blink cards like Acrobatic Maneuver, Cloud Shift, Ephemerate, Justicar's Portal. This one is useful because you get the first strike until end of turn, so you blink something, play Bloodric, boom, another Vial. Legion's Initiative is a great card because it saves all your creatures from a board wipe, pumps all your creatures, kinda everything you want. Then Long Road Home is another good one because Long Road Home is a blink and a +1/+1 counter, which will play well with our +1/+1 counter sub-theme. And also Otherworldly Journey, same ability. So here's a bunch of blink cards that we can use to blink Bloodric to get more vials, blink other creatures' ETBs to get those abilities as well. So pretty cool. But on this note of +1/+1 counters, let's look at our +1/+1 counter payoff. Over in our +1/+1 counter section, we have a bunch of stuff. First of all, we kind of want all the things from Khans of Tarkir. So Abzan Battle Priest, giving each creature +1/+1 counters lifelink. Falconer gives everything flying. Ionok Bondkin gives everything first strike. So first strike is really great because it makes it harder for your opponents to block or attack you because you get to kill the creatures first. Falconer means your vampires can connect easier, which is massive because as you continue to connect more, your board grows itself. So we definitely want that. Battle Priest is just nice because you gain the lifelink and just have more life, so it's pretty good. Cathar's Crusade, kind of flavorful here. Whenever a creature ETBs under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So this is really great just on its own. You have a bunch of vampires, you play a vampire, boom, everything grows bigger. You play Mavrin Fine, you attack, trigger Mavrin Fine, get a token now triggers Cathar's Crusade, boom, your board's bigger again. So I'm pretty sure everyone knows what Cathar's Crusade is, but I think it's very good in this deck, and in most decks it's in. Citadel Siege, this is a good one. When it ETBs, you can choose Khans or Dragons, and at the beginning of combat on your turn for Khans, if you pick Khans, you put 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature you control, or at the beginning of combat on each opponent's turn, tap target creature that player controls. The Dragon's ability is actually a lot better than I originally kind of thought about it. I started playing Lenore's Precon a lot, and Citadel Siege is very, very good. I've played Dragons quite a few times, and Dragons is good because you can actually tap down, like use it as a political tool, tap down blockers and kind of incentivize people to attack them. Then once it's your turn, 3 creatures have been tapped on everyone's board, so makes your attacks easier. But You can also always just pick cons to grow your board. That's pretty good. Next is Collective Effort, 3 CMC sorcery. You can choose one or more. Destroy target creature with power 4 or greater, destroy target enchantment, or put a +1/+1 counter on each creature target player controls. And then escalate, tap an untapped creature you control to get, for each one you choose more than just one. So there's a pretty good spell. You could use it to blow something up, blow a creature up that's too big, or just grow your board. Do all of it at the same time. I think it's pretty good. Contagion Engine, 6 CMC, pretty expensive, but we'll talk about that in a second. 6 CMC artifact. When it ETBs, you put a -1/-1 on each creature target player controls, and then tap 4, proliferate again. So this is obviously here for us to grow our board super fast, and we'll talk about why we're playing it in a moment. The next is Curse of Stalked Prey. You curse someone. Whenever your creatures deal combat damage to that player, you put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. So just another way to make our creatures connect, and we'll grow our creatures. Elite Scale Guard. This card is so good. 5 mana. When it ETBs, bolster 2. So you put 2 +1/+1 counters on the creature of least toughness among creatures you control. But whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it attacks, tap target creature defending player controls. This, when your board has a couple creatures with +1/+1 counters, this is basically like your board is unblockable. This is just like almost an instant kill for your opponent if they see it when you play it, because it's just like they can't let you keep this, but if you get to keep it, your board's gonna be so crazy. You're always gonna connect. The vampire's gonna keep growing. So really kind of recommend playing this card. We've talked about these vampires, talked about this blink spell. Then we have Sword of Truth and Justice. This is good just because it has a proliferate ability and a +1/+1, so when you connect, you grow your board. Yada yada yada. Together Forever is a cool enchantment. It has bolster, it has support, so you choose a +1/+1 counter on up to 2 target creatures. But then what you can do is you can choose target creature with a +1/+1 counter on it, or any counter really. Then when that creature dies this turn, you return it to your owner's hand. So if someone wipes the board, you have a lot of mana open, you can pick a bunch of stuff you want with +1/+1 counters and bring it back. Unbreakable Formations, the last card we're going to talk about here. 3 CMC instant. Creatures you control can indestructible, so that keyword we want there. But also with Addendum, if you play during your main phase, you get a +1/+1 counter on each of those creatures, and Vigilance as well, which is pretty massive. Vigilance is a really good ability. If you haven't watched my other CDH videos with hand-in-hand stuff like that, really value Vigilance, because being able to attack then leave your creatures there to block is pretty good. So that's all the +1/+1 counter support we have. We're gonna move on to something else. The next series of cards is artifacts. So you're wondering why these cards are here. Don't forget the Blood Vials are artifacts. So these cards all synergize of us having artifacts. And also just kind of like valuable artifacts themselves. So we have Amaret's Archive. What we're looking for here is if you would draw a card, except the first one you draw in each of your draw steps, you draw 2 cards instead. So the Rummage becomes really good because you discard 1, then you draw 2. So you're starting to net cards back off of the Blood Vials, which is useful. And also you can gain double life, which is sometimes useful with, like, if you have the Absan, lifelink guy, you can get double life. So that helps. We have Daretti here. So Daretti is here because you might rummage with your Blood Vial, discard a Contagion Engine or an Archive, then you use Daretti's minus ability to sack the vial and bring back one of these cards. Or you can use Daretti himself to draw some cards and discard cards, and discarding them lets you do madness stuff. So Daretti's pretty useful here. Girapur Aether Grid is useful because now we turn those vials that were formerly just cards for rummaging into like kind of a pseudo removal. So if you have a bunch of vials kind of stocked up, now you're able to start tapping them, or tapping 2 of them, and then dealing a damage for each 2 you tap down. So you can control the board that way pretty well, and just also ping players. Pretty good. Jor Kadeen, the Prevailer. We want the Metalcraft here because creatures you control get +3/+0 as long as you control 3 or more artifacts, which is a massive pump in power. Key and Peel, whenever you sacrifice an artifact, you pay 3, sacrifice an artifact, and Key and Peel deals 2 damage to any target. So we can turn those vials into shocks, which is pretty strong. Lastly, we have Reckless Fireweaver. So Reckless Fireweaver is here because whenever an artifact ETBs under your control, Reckless Fireweaver deals 1 damage to each opponent. So Odric can now start, well, Bloodric can start to give us kind of like more damage on ETBs through the vials, but also we should have vampires that also, when they connect, make more vials. So just kind of getting a little bit more damage out of those vials, getting a little more value out of them. Then we have some discard payoffs. So these are cards that are kind of synergizing with the discarding. So we have Angel Fire Ignition. It's just a cool card. 3 mana sorcery. Put 2+1/+1 counters on target creature. So there's a +1/+1 counter theme. It gains Vigilance, Trample, Lifelink, Indestructible, and Haste until end of turn. Wow. So just all the keywords, and then you play Bloodric on a creature. So that's 6 mana on one turn. You get like, what, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vials out of this, with flashback as well. So you can also just discard this and then flash it back later. So flashback is obviously useful with the rummaging. Avacyn's Judgment over here. Madness, just useful card over here. Avacyn's Judgment deals 2 damage divided as you choose among any number of targets if you pay 2 mana. But if the spell's Madness cost was paid, it deals X damage divided as you choose among those permanents and players instead. So just much better as a Madness card. Then we have Spirit Cairn. Spirit Cairn is a 3 mana enchantment. Whenever a player discards a card, you can pay white. If you do, you make a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. So all the Blood Vials can now help us make spirit tokens if you pay mana for it, which is pretty cool. Lastly, we have Squee. Squee is here just for us to discard to the vials, then kind of get back so we don't lose cards when we start cracking those vials. Looking down over here, we have keywords. So keywords, we have things like Akroma's Will. Akroma's Will is cool because if you control a commander, you can choose both, right? And the 2 options you have is creatures you control gain flying, vigilance, and double strike until end of turn. So a super alpha strike. It's also just good with Bloodric for the keywords. And the other side, or the other option, is creatures you control gain lifelink, indestructible, and protection from all colors until end of turn. So super alpha strike right here. So what you can do here is, in response to Bloodric's ETB, you play Akroma's Will, choose both, get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 whole Blood Vials, and then also get both of the options there. So pretty cool. I just wanted to play this card. Then we're playing both Odrics. This one over here, you should recognize him. Lunarch Marshal just spreads all the keywords across all your creatures. And then Odric over here as first strike himself, but also this is the one that makes it where basically all your creatures are unblockable. So very good. Odric's good in his own deck. Stalwart Pathlighter is a cool card, 3 mana vigilance at the beginning of combat for Coven. If you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, creatures you control gain indestructible. So giving your creatures just indestructible as a keyword, but seems pretty good. We also have you can see here, a token sub-theme with some of the cards we already covered. So of course we want things like Anointed Procession. And lastly, that's everything. So that's the whole deck. I hope it was interesting. I think Bloodric or Boros Vampires is a really cool option from Crimson Vows. And hope that inspired you to try it out. Goodbye.